Today we're going to be discussing The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. It is exactly as you would think, as this amazingly designed cover would depict. It's a cozy cottage feel that gives you every kind of sense of community, warmth, and self-exploration that you could want from a fantasy novel. It is quintessentially for younger readers or light fantasy. If you're just new to the genre, it would be a perfect entry point, and it has touches of romantasy without having to go into any spice or get into anything too heavy. It's more of a childhood rekindling. So the spell shop starts with a young librarian who has sequestered herself away into the confines of her books and the organization of a great institution of magical tomes that only the elitists have access to. And she has cultivated a friendship with her sort of brought to life spider plant, Kaz, and they are in the midst of a civil war. So the city has risen up the lower class in order to take back what they think is rightfully theirs, which is access to magic or just general access to resources that the wealthy have kept to themselves. And amidst this chaos, the library is threatened. The main character, Kayla, Kiela, she anticipates that the library will be in jeopardy, and so packs her favorite books away and is prepared to leave the city. And the city sort of seems to be like waterlogged in as an intentional sort of like Vienna or whatever. And they're taking their books via boat out into the open sea as they travel through a city on fire, and you see like the brutality of a civil war amidst the riverbeds and all around her. So there's evidence of violence, and it's just her and her plant with crates of books on their way out to the open ocean, not really sure what to do. So the reason for this civil war is that magic, in particular magic books, are kept for the elites and for those that are in power, and the lower class, the working class, are tired of it. So they want to do away with the current regime and access the power that is hidden within these ancient tomes. And whether or not they respect them enough to keep them from burning, we aren't exactly sure, but Kayla isn't taking chances, so she takes some of her favorites and goes into the open ocean to try to escape this battleground. On the way out, she remembers that her family once lived on a very small island far away from the capital or from where this main source of power is, and her parents, who recently passed, left her that home on this island, although it's been abandoned for decades. So she goes out there and thinks that could be a potential refuge for the short term, and as she kind of just has a roof over her head to figure out what she's going to do next, because she is harboring illegal books at this point. So she's preserving them, she's trying to protect them as a librarian should, but also it's not legal for them to be outside the library and for anybody to be reading them. So yeah, she's definitely taking a risk here. So her and her plant go to this cottage and immediately encounter a young man that seems friendly enough, and she's distrustful because as a librarian that's hidden away within the bookshelves of her life is lacking social skills and is a little cold and a little standoffish. So not the best introduction, but c'est la vie. And he ends up being super sweet and gets her some cinnamon buns, which she really appreciates because she's starving at this point. And it's sort of the introduction of the town. That's really the energy that everybody is going to be bringing forth. So the book proceeds sort of in this light. The librarian sees the cottage home, which is abandoned, so it needs a lot of work to get fixed up. The garden is overrun. There's nothing about it that's really livable or sustainable at this point. It's going to take some effort to get it to a livable standard, and she does it with by herself with the help of her plant, and then kind of starts to lean on the town a little bit. She goes down, and what was once a vibrant island landscape town is disheveled. The paint isn't new. Things need to get replaced, No one's really doing it. The fountain that was once in the middle of the town as like sort of like a beacon of beauty has been shut down. It no longer works. And it's generally just a disheveled sort of environment. And it's largely because the magicians that are supposed to control the weather and redistribute sort of like the magical terrain, because I'm assuming what happens is that they use a lot of magic in one focal point, and then doing so alters the weather and environment in other places unintentionally. So the kingdom has set up these sort of traveling wizards to go around to the further out islands in order to bring everything into homeostasis. But because of the Civil War and this general neglect from the previous ruling class, that task by the sorcerers hasn't been done in a while. So as a result, this town is now suffering both like on an economic level, well, primarily on an economic level, because the weather is destructive to their town, and then also the weather is destructive to their livelihood, which is generally fish. So the town is a little wary of her because she's new, but because also her parents lived there for a while. They recognize her as one of their own because she looks quite similar to her mother. And through generally just leaning on each other and through the connection to what her neighbor is, the guy that gave her the cinnamon buns, she carves out a life for herself. She ends up making jams. So in one of the spell books that she's found, she hesitantly reads through it and tries to figure out how she can like carve out a life. And one of the spells in there is to increase the virility and the speed of growth of plants, and she just so happens to have raspberry plants in her yard, so she decides to make jam with these magically enhanced berries. She also uses this spell to bring back life to the plants on the island because they require magical influence in order to thrive, because they were brought from other locations. They're not necessarily native to that area, and they relied on the magic supplied by the sorcerers that don't come around anymore. So she begins to heal the island with this plant magic, and she calls them remedies. And it took her a while to kind of figure it out, and as she was experimenting, the island has these spirit bears that take note, and they're connected to specific plants, sort of like fairies, like fae, or dryads, how they connect themselves to a plant, and then that plant represents that spirit. So these bears late at night come to her cottage because they see that she's working these kinds of spells and tentatively ask her to like heal their specific trees. And she does it, and in doing so, she's gifted sort of their friendship, but also the island is home to a unicorn, and this unicorn sort of like pays her respect by acknowledging what she's doing and gives like a very cute, magical moment within the book that was beautiful to read. So she heals the island, she is making out a life with the jam, but of course, where is the trouble going to come? A person from the old ruling class, sort of investigator of magical items, is washed up on shore, more or less. So her neighbor, Loran, who's the primary love interest of the story, is a mer horse herder. So these mer horses are half horse, half fish, as you would imagine. Beautiful, lovely creatures with sort of like mischievous and benevolent kind of personalities. And he uses these beasts or these creatures to help corral fish, and then the fishermen scoop them up for trade. And so he is a very brave guy, and he goes out to save a woman that capsizes close to the island during a magical storm. So periodically these influx of magical energy from other places, sort of like the abuse of magic it would seem, creates these tempestuous storms that intercept the island and cause a lot of damage, and then also release negative magical energy into the environment. And if you don't protect yourself, if you don't kind of hide away from it, it can infect you and cause a lot of problems. So he sees this girl being capsized in one of these violent storms, goes out to save her, and she just so happens to be an inspector of magical use. So a threat to our spell shop, a threat to our main protagonist. And during this storm, the young mer baby is also infected by sort of this surplus of magic, and because the mer baby is so young, it has no way to distribute the excess magical energy, and it's threatened. And while this inspector is sort of around, Kayla has to find a solution to save this mermaid's baby. So she does it, she figures it out, and in so doing, gains a friend, because one of the major themes of this book is very much community, and then relying on one another, forming friendships, reciprocity, but not in the hopes of, I do this for you and therefore I am owed something. It's more just like we're looking out for each other and forming, like, I guess, a family. So saving the baby, she has earned an ally at the very least in this mermaid. And when this inspector sort of starts to suspect that there's magical goings on with this island, that mermaid in turn eventually helps Kayla by hiding her away in a like sort of cave that's like connected to the ocean. And so Kayla can access it through the ocean, but she can also access it from like a jungled part of the island and kind of hide the books there that she's keeping in her place, and then also hide herself if she needs. But suffice to say, the inspector does end up finding her. There's not much you can do about it. And it is eventually discovered that this individual is sort of heir to the previous regime's government system, or a reluctant heir. And so she's highly sought out by people that want to bring back that regime, and then also people that want to end it. In so doing, probably end her life. But this inspector, although she comes off as quite harsh, is just fearful and wants to live a simple life. And so the community sort of comes around both Kayla and the inspector and tries to hide them when Imperial sort of like search convoy comes and protects them and tries to set up a fabricated history that they've always been there. And it more or less works. And then a final storm does come to like sort of wreck the island, and Kayla has to use her magical abilities and her spells to stave off the worst of the storm, and then also save that Imperial investigation, those individuals, from like the worst of the storm's effects. And there's a bit of understanding from them that, okay, these people have magic, like unsanctioned magic, but they also saved us, so we're gonna give them a solid, just go look for our mysterious, basically princess, elsewhere. After that, the island is sort of left in peace. The fountain that was in the middle of the town was restored earlier. That was like one of the hints that magic was in use on the island for the inspector. But everything is sort of like coming back to itself. It's getting renewed. Industry is like likely to come back, because another aspect of this is the mer horses weren't able to reproduce because they need magical intervention to safely do so. And now that Kayla is there, these horses can once again increase their population size and therefore be more effective for the fish, and then stave off the storms to protect the fish. And so the island is essentially going to be a success once again. And it's all because of generally community. So there are more aspects of how the town has embraced the main character. Mainly the baker Bryn takes her under her wing, like giving her like a trade agreement for the jam, and then also just introducing her to other people, and those other people coming up to buy jam from Kayla, and then forming a bit of like a coven to heal the forest's trees, and then of course Laurent and his integration with Kayla and the mer horses as a neighbor, and then also a support system when trouble happens. He's a bit of her protector. And the book basically ends on a very happy note, where a once lonely librarian has found a family, has found someone to love her, a home, a purpose, and a dream come true. And that, my friends, is The Spell Shop. I hope you enjoyed my rambling summary, and I really urge you guys to check it out. It's a lovely book. The cover is great. The sprayed edges, beautiful. The one thing is it's quite expensive. For me, paying $40 for a hardcover does seem pricey. Hardcovers are always pricey. Get them on sale if you can. That's what I did for this. That's what I do for all my books. I always get them on sale. But it's worth it, I think, for me anyway, to have like the hardcover, because I consider them more of collector items. If you get a chance to read this in any format though, a cheaper version in any way, I strongly urge. It's a comfort to the soul. It's a bit healing for those of us that are bookworms. We can sometimes let our lives pass us by in the pursuit of comfort, like largely hiding in books, largely hiding in other spaces, video games, movies, not really integrating yourself with life, not connecting with other people. I can definitely attest to that behavior. This gave, although it is a book and I'm sort of like falling into that old habit, but this did give a bit of light of what could be, you know? If I reached out and had more of a community and it gave you just all the soft, comforting feels that life can be okay and that there is more to it when there's more people in your life. And with that, yeah, I'll close. Thanks again for being here. I appreciate all your time and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye. Take care.